Hey, good morning everybody, or good afternoon, depending on when you're going to watch this video. Welcome to the Lodge at Deer Run. I'm our food service director, George. Last name is Moran. Those of you who don't know me, and I appreciate you all tuning in. Hopefully you've had time to watch some of our previous videos. We've done a stir fry video a couple weeks ago that's actually up on our website. And we've also done a video cookie decorating with Jamie Brown, one of our kitchen leads, the brown-eyed baker. So something we could do with the kids. Today we've got a nice entree that we're going to prepare. It's a salmon dish that we're going to do. It's a pan-seared salmon, and it's going to be topped with a citrus tomato relish. And it's going to be served with some fresh sautéed spinach and some sautéed squash. So something beautiful, colorful, something fun to do, something nutritious. One of the reasons we've chosen to do salmon today, salmon is a great source of protein, great source of potassium. It's high in omega-3 fatty acids, and it's a really good source of vitamin B. And it's recommended that we eat a nice fatty fish like a salmon twice a week in our diet in order to live a healthy lifestyle. So that's why we chose it today. So again, we'll be doing a salmon pan-seared. So we're gonna start our dishes today, and I'm just gonna light up our preheat our pans a little bit. And the first thing, we're gonna act like I was just coming home from work, or I'm just starting this meal prep together. So I wanna have everything finishing around the same time. So I'm gonna do multiple things as I go through. The longest item to cook today is gonna be our summer squash. So I'm gonna actually cook that first. I'll start that. Then I'll start our salmon. And while our salmon is preparing, I'll go ahead and I'll make our citrus relish. And the last thing we'll do is our spinach. That's gonna be the quickest thing we cook. So that's what we'll do last. Then we'll go ahead and we'll make a nice dinner plate up. So we're gonna start with our squash. And we're gonna start with our olive oil. And you can use other fats. This recipe that I put out is olive oil, a little bit of butter. But if you have if you like sesame oil, you wanna get a different flavor in there, by all means, do whatever you enjoy. So again, starting with our olive oil. And the recipes will be up online, so you can play along later. If you want to rewatch. We'll start with our butter in here as well. And if we let that go, that's going to come down and heat and melt. Once our pan is hot, then we'll go ahead and we'll start. When sauteing an item, you always want to make sure you're starting with a hot pan. If I just put all my oil or fats in here and put all my product right in, it's really gonna get soggy. Things are just gonna basically absorb instead of getting crisp or sauteing nicely. So we started this pan. In the center pan, we're actually a little bit of oil. And this is gonna be for our salmon. In our salmon today, we are gonna use a fresh salmon. You could use a frozen salmon for this recipe. It'll still be delicious and tasty, but I definitely would recommend using fresh if it's available to you. It's just for me, it's a far better product. So we're a little bit of salt and pepper. So simple, clean recipe, salt, pepper, our olive oil's heating up, well, again, you could use a different fat if you wanted to change that flavor profile. And again, it's really about making things that people want to eat. So if you want to go with an Asian flair to this dish, you could definitely change that recipe as far as the seasonings that are going on the fish, changing that oil or fat that we're starting it in. So there's a lot of little tricks that we could do using all the same ingredients or the main components, but changing it to a flavor profile that you actually enjoy. Okay, so that's going. I'm gonna go in with my squash next. And we're using yellow squash. We easily could have used zucchini. We could have done another vegetable. But for this dish, we are gonna go with our yellow squash. Okay. And with this dish, again, we started with our butter and oil, yellow squash, and we're gonna add in our red pepper. Again, it's adding colors, making it look appetizing. We all tend to eat with our eyes first. gonna add a little salt and pepper back to the other side of that salmon. So I've got my salmon, we've got our squash going. At this point, we're gonna make this relish. And this relish could be made a day ahead to save prep time in the kitchen. Maybe after doing the dishes from the previous dinner, take a minute and load up this, cut our ingredients and prep this ahead. But it's a really simple, clean recipe. We're starting with some mandarin oranges, some sliced red onion, and I've sliced them. You could easily do a dice, any way, it's any way you want to do it. And these are all easy things to cut. So if you want to do this recipe with your child, this is stuff that we could set them up, and it's nice, easy knife cuts. Something you could kind of start teaching them how to do things in the kitchen. We've got some halved grape tomatoes. You could use cherry tomatoes, or if you had a whole tomato at home, you would just simply dice that. So nice and easy. And for this recipe, we're going to use some cilantro. In the recipe, if you look online, you'll see that we've got, you can add different herbs. You could use parsley, ginger, you could use mint. This is basically going to take it in a whole different direction for flavor profile of what you would actually want to eat. For this one, I wanted to, where the warmer weather's coming out, grilling, I would use mint or cilantro. But the recipe for the squash calls for fresh parsley. So if you just wanted to buy one fresh herb, you could substitute the parsley in here. You wouldn't get the same flavor profile, but it would still look really good. So we're going to add our cilantro, a little salt and pepper. We're just going to add just a little bit of oil. And again, olive oil works best for this recipe. And we're just mixing this together, incorporating all of our flavors. And that's why I say you could do this ahead. It doesn't have to be done during the meal prep. It's not a problem to do that, but if you're giving it a little more time, it would just give those flavors a little more time to blend. But it looks good. Nice and colorful, and wait till you see it on top of our fish. And with this recipe, the nice thing about it, it could actually be basically a table side. It's great on top of fish or fish, poultry, any kind of meat, but it's also great as just a separate side item, which is always fun. So that could be, this year when we're grilling out, it could be just a nice fresh little salad, and nice and easy to do. So at this point, we've got our squash going nicely. Our salmon, we're about 30 seconds away from a flip. And once we flip our salmon, that's when we'll go ahead and we'll start our spinach. Just a minute or two after that. The key is trying to get everything off the stove at the same time, but it could be done in components. So if you don't want it to be doing 3 pans at one time or 4 things at once, you could do one thing at a time. And I still would do it in that order I spoke of, as far as the squash would be first, get that started. That's gonna hold nicely. Start my salmon. And I wouldn't do the salmon first, just the fact that with fish, you don't want to serve something that's dry, especially dealing with a fresh or a frozen piece of fish. It would have a tendency to dry out pretty fast if you cooked it too early. So this is going nice. We're going to add a little salt and pepper to our squash. And I've just got a mixture of salt and pepper ahead. You don't have to do that. You could have your salt and pepper shaker out and just, do the little maraca dance. Okay, so you don't have to do it that way. That's going nicely. Our salmon's ready to flip. So looking pretty good so far, right? Got some nice color on there. And this recipe I put on, again, it's pan seared, but you could easily do the same dish by grilling this fish. You could grill it, you could broil it in the oven if you don't want to do a pan fry. So we're going to heat up our pan for our spinach. And again, with this spinach recipe, it is super easy, the one we posted. Olive oil, garlic, spinach, a little salt and pepper. It's just that simple. If you weren't going to do maybe the squash with the red peppers, you could actually add like some red peppers or a tomato right at the end of this spinach dish just to add color. Because remember, we all eat with our eyes first, so especially if we're trying to incorporate new food choices for our kids or our families, it's important to cook with color. That way it looks appetizing and at least piques a little interest, like, oh wow, that looks really good. I don't like that, but I'm gonna try it. It's just a great way to get people to try new things. I know a little anecdotal information about our youngest son. One way we used to get him to eat new foods is when we'd go to the grocery store in the produce area, we used to allow him to pick a new thing. That was like his treat every time we'd go. So he'd get to go pick out a fruit or a vegetable he's never tried. So it was just a good way to expand his palate and his diet. So now this is heating up, we're gonna add my olive oil. And one thing with this, we're finishing up here, I wanted to mention, our last video that I did talk about if anyone had something sitting in their pantry that they wanted to get rid of, or they have no idea how to use or why they ever bought it in the first place. If they sent it to me, I could try to send back a recipe. I did get one comment back, and it was a can of chickpeas. Like, what do I do with a can of chickpeas? A couple of quick things you could do with chickpeas. You could actually puree them to make a hummus. A simple, some chickpeas, a little oil, garlic, salt, pepper. You've got a nice, delicious hummus dish. But one thing we like to do, and something we do here at camp, we actually roast our chickpeas, olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic, get them crispy. And basically they could be used on top of a salad instead of a crouton for a gluten-free option for a crunch on your salad. Also, just even out as a side. It's kind of like eating a bowl of peanuts at that point, and it's delicious and super easy. But if anyone else has anything that they'd like help with using in their pantry or their kitchen, please put it in the comments and we'll make sure we get that turned around. So, heat it up, garlic's going in. In the recipe it calls for 1 small clove of garlic, but I leave that up to you. I love garlic, so for me, I probably couldn't put enough garlic in, but 1 small clove is definitely enough to get those smells going in the house, piquing interest, like, oh, what's mom or dad cooking in there? So that's just something. Spinach. And spinach cooks very fast, and it's kind of a joke that how much spinach you put in the pan, it never seems like you get any out. Just because it wilts down, and that's all we're doing with this recipe. We're really just cooking this till it wilts down. And we'll keep moving that. Squash is doing great. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add our herb to our squash. Remember, we did salt, pepper, but now I'm gonna add a little fresh parsley for color. Because again, we eat with our eyes first, and it's just gonna add a lot of nice color to what we're doing. So we're gonna finish up with our spinach. So I've got the oil, then the garlic, now I've added my spinach. Once it starts to wilt down, I'm gonna add a little salt and pepper to the dish. And some of the things to look forward to, some of the things we're doing at Deer Run. Next week we'll have another video coming out next Thursday. It'll be more to the baking and dessert side. It'll be done by Jamie Brown, the brown-eyed baker, and she will have a special guest. So that alone is worth tuning in for. And you can ask me in the comment section, but no, I will not divulge who the special guest is. Gonna add our little salt and pepper. I'm gonna shut our heat down. So you saw how fast that dish cooked? And we're getting ready to plate up over here. And our salmon, it depends on how you like it. If you like your salmon rare, medium rare, that's how long we're gonna go. I like mine a little more to the rare side. So I'm really gonna start plating this, and that salmon will be perfect the way I like it. If you like it well done, you probably wanna add maybe another minute or 2 to the recipe that I posted. It'll be cooked well through the whole dish. So for plating, I'll make a simple dinner plate. We're gonna start with our base, which is gonna be our fresh sauteed spinach. And when building a dinner plate, it always makes it more enticing or more exciting when you have multiple colors that we're using in our plate, and getting away from the traditional, I hate to use the term, but the 3 plops, like my entree, my starch, my vegetable. That's great, but It could be much more enticing looking if you build height to a dinner plate. So that's why I've centered my, just slightly off center of my fresh spinach. My salmon's gonna go atop my fresh spinach. Then we'll do my summer squash, and then we'll top it with our tomato citrus relish. So get a little bit of our squash. So looking good so far. And then we're gonna go with our salmon. So again, that's where we are so far. Our next item will be our relish. And we'll go, basically we're gonna go crisscross, if you will, across our salmon just for a look. Just adding color and body to this dish. So there is our plated salmon dish. And if you like a little lemon, we could simply take a lemon wheel that's just been cut halfway through. So instead of just putting a lemon whale on there or a wedge, just again, we're trying to add some excitement. We can turn this right into a little lemon twist right over the top, and there's dinner on the table. So very quick and easy if you do things simultaneously. If you're not comfortable cooking everything at one time, it definitely could be done in steps. The relish could be done the day ahead. The squash could be cooked. Then go ahead and do your salmon. And the last thing would be the spinach. That way it's just fresh. But we're hitting the table, everything's hot, everything's freshly cooked, looks delicious. And just a couple of things, like I mentioned about color. People eat with their eyes, so beautiful, colorful dish. If people aren't traditionally spinach eaters or salmon eaters, it'd be a great way to introduce this because it looks interesting. And the other thing, I just had a couple of closing announcements. First thing at Deer Run, we'll be starting some to-go, family-style to-go meals. Those will be located, the link on our website, and those will be meals that feed 4 people. If you had 6 or 8 people in your family, you could definitely order 2, but we'll be doing things like a chicken bruschetta, chicken parmesan, pasta, barbecue pork with all the fixings. Just something we're trying to do to help out during this time, take pressure off mom or dad so they don't have to cook. So please go to our page, check those out. And we also launched our family resources page. And you can also get to that by going to our website. And next week, Jamie Brown, the Brown-Eyed Baker, our lead baker here at Deer Run, she'll be doing a demo of another dessert item with a special guest. So please tune in and check it out. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today and hope you enjoy dinner.